Hello, amazing humans. Welcome to video 7 of the mini series of shadow work. Is it worth it? And my answer is yes. And in case you're new to my channel, my name is Kimberly and I'm your favorite empowerist. I have the desire to help you grow and evolve and just love yourself and let your light shine. So if you haven't already, make sure that you subscribe, you like, and comment below. I would love to engage with you. So now that that's out of the way, let's jump right into what we're going to talk about today. And again, I am referencing The Dark Side of the Light Chasers by Debbie Ford. Sorry for the glare. And today I'm really just gonna, it's kind of like we're gonna do story time, and I'm not reading it word for word. Some parts I am, but this is your assignment for today. And let's recap what yesterday was about. So yesterday, um, oh my gosh, I just had a brain cramp. What did I have you do? Oh, yes, yesterday I asked you to ask your loved ones and like your family and your closest friends 3 things that they admired about you and 3 things that maybe they don't like about you. And I know that some of you maybe haven't done that yet, and maybe you're afraid to. But if you're going to show up and do this work and you want to grow and evolve and love yourself more and take back your power, go do that. Okay, so video 7 today is all about taking that information, and now we're going to do the next piece or part of that. And I'm referencing pages 64 to 67 in Debbie's book. And so now that you've received the feedback from others, you want to continue this process of unconcealing your shadow. So we're bringing your unconscious, your shadow, your limiting beliefs, we're bringing them out into the light, right? We're shining light on them. So here is another way to expose some hidden aspects and to dive deeper into maybe what you're hiding from yourself, you know? So what you're going to do is you need a piece of paper. You can use your journal, just a scrap piece of paper, notebook, whatever. And you're going to make a list of 3 people that you admire and 3 people that you hate. I know that's such a strong word. I don't usually like to use it, but it's important for today's video. So the people that you admire should inspire you with qualities like that you want to emulate, like that you want to show the world that you want to be more like that. Okay, and then the people that you don't like, they should get you really upset or angry. So they would have done something to you which you find horrifying or very upsetting. And the list do not have to include people that you know, okay, although they can. They can also be like politicians, actors, writers, entrepreneurs, musicians, even killers, murderers. So after you've made your list, I want you to write down the 3 qualities you like or admire most about each person. So 3 people you admire, 3 people that you really, really dislike. There we go. Okay. And then on a separate sheet of paper, I want you to make a list of all the positive qualities of the people that you admire on one side, and then all of the negative qualities you dislike on the other. So it'll look something like this on your first sheet. And I'm going to use Debbie's examples because if I thought about this, I would have written down my own so I could have shown up a little more authentically with you. And I may do that between now and tomorrow's video. So she wrote down Martin Luther King. These are her 3 people that she admires: Martin Luther King Jr., Jacqueline Onassis, and Ariel Ford, which is her sister. And Martin Luther King, these were the things that she attached next to his name, the things that she admires about these 3 people. So Martin Luther King Jr. was visionary, courageous, and honorable. Jacqueline Onassis is elegant, successful, and a leader. Ariel Ford is spiritual, creative, and powerful. So those are the things that Debbie admired about those 3 people. So that's what you want to do when you write down the 3 that you admire. You're going to write 3 things that you admire about them that you want to emulate for yourself. And then when you go to the other side, the 3 people that you really, really dislike, you're going to write down 3 things that you don't like about them, like the first 3 words that come to mind. So she uses these examples: Charles Manson, predator, fearful, hateful; Hitler, murderer, prejudice, evil; Harriet Spiegel, which was an old teacher of Debbie's, was arrogant, know-it-all, and angry. Okay, so now on that other piece of paper, you're going to write down on one side your positive list, And then on the other side, you're going to write down the negative. So your positive list would be the words that she used to describe the people that she admires, those admirational words. Admirational? I don't even know if that's a word. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So visionary, courageous, honorable, elegant, successful, leader, spiritual, creative, and powerful. Those were the things that she admired about those three people. And then the negative list, the things that of people she disliked or hated, were predator, hateful, fearful, murderer, evil, prejudiced, arrogant, know-it-all, and angry. Now, these lists are just a really good place to find any disowned aspects of yourself. So carefully go over each trait that you've listed. And she recommends, and I recommend the same thing, start with a negative list first, okay? In the beginning, you might have trouble seeing how you have the same traits as somebody like, and she uses Hitler as an example. It's important to break down any general word like a murderer. The question to ask is, what kind of person would commit these acts? So for example, what kind of person would be a predator? What kind of person would be so hateful? What kind of person would be a murderer? So you're getting the idea, okay? So she uses the murderer, for example. So for example, for murderer, you might say selfish, enraged, doesn't value human life. So if you come up with a phrase like doesn't value human life, then ask yourself, what kind of person has no value for human life? You might come up with sick, demented, or narcissistic. The important part of the process is to break the language down until you get to a specific word or quality that you hate or dislike. And this quality is going to give you an emotional charge. Like it determines like what plugs you in, what brings, when I say that, it's that emotional charge, I'm looking for the anger, the dislike, okay? So, for example, if, going back to her example of Hitler, being a murderer, any murderer, bringing it down to the base word of what is that? What is the word once you break it down from murder? What is it that gives you that emotional charge that gets you really upset or really angry? And then that is the aspect within yourself that we're bringing to the light that you're going to embrace. Okay. And now I'm going to share a story and then we're going to end for today. And I apologize. I forgot to put my phone on silent. So I'm going to share the story that she talks about. And I'm just going to kind of ad lib this part so it's not verbatim. So again, I'm referencing her book. This is on page 66 to 67. I want to give credit where credit's due. So she talks about someone who came to one of her seminars, and his name was Stephen, and he was a successful business consultant, and he'd been meditating for 8 years, and he made a real commitment to alter his life. But he hadn't had a relationship in about 5 years. And so he was ready to find a partner, get married, and start a family. And he really felt like he needed to dig into himself to find out why, he was so unsuccessful in love. So by the second day, Stephen had unconcealed many aspects of himself, but there was one thing that was still bothering him. So during a break, he calls Debbie over and he whispers and he says to her, there was a gentleman in the seminar, and he's like, I cannot stand him. And so Debbie asks him, what is it that you dislike about him so much? What is it within this other man that you dislike? So Stephen had a glimmer of recognition, and he whispered to her, he's a wimp, and I hate wimps. So she didn't say a word, and she let Stephen, talk for a moment and gather his own thoughts. Sorry, you guys, I had to pause the video. I do live life, and I have a dog that he's older, needed my help. So anyway, back to Stephen. So when she asked him about what it is about, the whole wimp thing, she gave him that moment to just recognize where maybe he was a wimp in his life. Okay. So he comes back and he tells her that when he was 5 years old, he remembers going to a carnival and they had ponies. And so the ponies were really big to him, in the eyes of a 5-year-old. And he told his dad that he didn't want to go on the pony ride because he was scared. And his dad scolded him. And this is what his dad said to him. What kind of man are you going to make? You're nothing but a little wimp. You're an embarrassment to our family. Stephen was punished. So he spent the rest of his life trying to make his father proud. He became a black belt in karate, played college football, lifted weights, all to prove that he wasn't a wimp. So he'd managed to fool his father, but he'd also learned to fool himself. He'd forgotten this painful incident. So then she asked Stephen if he could see in any area in his life where he was still a wimp. After some thought, he said that he was a wimp about women. He was afraid of women, of communicating honestly with them. So whenever there was a problem in a relationship, Stephen just left. So he left almost every woman he'd ever been in a relationship with. And at this point, he was even scared to ask attractive women out. She told him to take some time to fully feel his shame and his embarrassment. And then she asked him, what is the good thing about being a wimp? And he looked at her like she was crazy. But then he remembered a time when being a wimp had probably actually saved his life. So he was in college, him and his buddies had some alcohol, got drunk, and some of his friends decided that, hey, let's go to a bar. And so they were going to drive there. And he was afraid to drive drunk, and he was afraid to get in the car with someone who was drinking. But in order to not show that he was scared and be a wimp, he told his buddies that he's like, no, I got a date. I'm going to get late tonight. So they left, and 2 hours later, they drove off the road, and one of his closest friends was killed, and the other three were seriously injured. So he couldn't believe that he was remembering this. He blocked the incident from his mind, but at the time, he just figured that the accident was just luck that he'd skipped out on, going that night. But, actually, him being a wimp and not knowing it at the time, it did save his life. He didn't get in the car because he was a wimp for being scared to drive while, after drinking, and a wimp for getting in a car with someone else who had been drinking. But that's not how he looked at it, right? He hid behind that. But being a wimp saved his life. So this just kind of gives you a general idea of when we hide things in the shadow of things that we don't like, we're going to discover things about when they actually served us. And there are some things that, that just don't serve us, but we really want to focus on embracing all the pieces and parts of ourselves and loving the shit out of it, right? Because when you love all pieces and parts, dark, light, whatever, you become whole. You take back your power, and then you get to choose how you show up in the world and what you're creating. So I hope that this has resonated with you, and that it has kind of like opened up some avenues of ways to discover what some of your shadows or limiting beliefs, or any negative thoughts. Again, shadow work isn't just about the shadow you. It's got a lot of different names, so don't get caught up on it's my shadow, or it's the dark side that I hate about myself. You can even bring in Star Wars. You got the Jedis and the dark side, and things like that. But it really is just shining a light on the aspects of yourself that you don't like, whether it's what's hidden in your subconscious, your inner child, your limiting beliefs, all the things. So this really does connect to creating a life that you love living. And shadow work, again, I don't want you to spend years like I did investing in it, but having the awareness and choosing to do the work, it does get easier. And I hope by doing this little mini series that you're going to find that now that you have an awareness that there are things that you don't like, and I'm going to share by the end of this series, things that you can do on a daily basis when you have things pop up. And again, this works for manifestation, law of attraction, creating the life that you want, getting what you want, how you can turn those things around, how you can embrace it and love it and let it go so much faster than I spent 3 years doing shadow work. And I got into the trap of, oh my God, I have to fix every single thing about myself, when really we're not even broken and nothing needs to get fixed. We just have to have our mind body connected, and so that we can change it and create new beliefs and new ways of doing things. So I think I'm going to leave you with that tonight. May you go have an amazing rest of your day. May you be an amazing human. And I'm sending you lots of love, light, and really big hugs. Mwah. See you next time. maybe. See you next time.